Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Hour. My name is Miguel Sanchez, and in my ever-growing quest to create multiple streams of revenue, I invite you to come along for the ride by subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and definitely hitting the bell to make sure you are notified when I come up with new videos. Also, I hope by watching, by learning with me, one day we can both be financially free. Today, I'm going to start discussing how artificial intelligence is possible to use right now to make everything you do easier, right? So I work with a bunch of different AIs right now, and if I didn't, I probably couldn't do as many things as I do, right? Like, I am trying to make sure I use artificial intelligence to amplify human ability instead of take away. What I'm going to talk about today is how I think about that, how I find them, and then the ones that I've used. And I'm going to talk to you about how I've used them, why I think they're good. And then if anybody knows any other ones, definitely bring them out. So, to quick background, if you don't fully understand what artificial intelligence is, because a lot of people think artificial intelligence is, robots that are walking around. That's not what artificial intelligence right now is. Most artificial intelligence right now is code. It's software, right? So when I talk about all the artificial intelligence that I use, it's all software products that help me do things that if I had to do them without AI, I would need either a lot of human beings or a lot more time, like 10 times more time, right? So why I wanted to create this video is because as I look for things to give you value, as I get more guests, because I've got more guests lining up, but I'm trying to figure out a good time to make the show. This is my first show at 3 o'clock. We're going to see how this goes. But I think some of the tools I'm using may be able to help some of you that are trying to do similar things, right? So where I'm going to start, though, is I'm going to talk about how I think about artificial intelligence and then how I look for artificial intelligence projects once I think of a problem that I'm trying to solve. So I'm going to start out with being a parent. Today, it was the first day of actual school in New York City, and it was a nightmare, pretty much, right? Like, it was so many things where I'm like, wow, the DOE just needs like a few technology consultants because this is scary. So it's going to be a fun year for us parents, but hopefully some of this helps me think of good content to teach people like you, and hopefully people from the DOE start watching. So how I think about artificial intelligence is, what is a problem I'm trying to solve, right? So I'm going to give you an example from me as a parent. About 2 years ago now, I want to say, maybe a year ago, I forget the exact, but I heard a stat that said young people in the Bronx read 3 grade levels lower than national average or something like that. So if they're supposed to be in the 5th grade, most are reading at 2nd grade level. So I know from my own history, I grew up in the Bronx, went to school in Harlem, I'm not the fastest reader in the world. I can be a much better reader. I read because I do what I do, but I've always been a little bit, I've always thought of myself as not as good as a reader as other people, right? I hate reading out loud, even though I speak publicly. But whenever I have to read in public, it messes with me. So I said, you know what? I'm going to figure out how to help my kids. So just in case that's the case for them, which I didn't think it was, but I do have one son with special needs. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make them all do it to make sure he doesn't feel like he's being singled out, right? So I searched online, artificial intelligence for reading, right? So I came across a bunch of different things. And I said, all right, I'm going to look and try one of them. So I tried this app called Reading Buddy. And I don't know, you may have seen me talk about this before. It was a while ago. And I said, all right, I'm going to give it, it said it takes about 3 months. What this artificial intelligence does, so how you got to think about artificial intelligence is what benefit is it giving you as the person using it, right? So for me, in that case, there's two benefits, right? One is I want to help my child and my children reading level go up. So that's one of the benefits, one of the results from having this artificial intelligence. The second thing is me as the parent, right? I, of course, would love to sit with each one of my children for an extra half hour to work on their reading. But I have 3. That could be 3 hours extra a day. That is tough, especially when you're doing as many things as I'm doing. So I said, all right, it's worth trying it for 3 months. I did it in the summer though, right? So basically the way this AI works is you put your child on it, they read, there's a passage on the screen, they read it, and if they missay one of the words, the AI will stop the reading and doesn't let them pass. So the AI is highlighting each word that's being read, right? And if you say a word wrong, it doesn't let you pass that word. You can click on that word to understand how to say it better. What that does is it helps children with, pronunciation and understanding words. Because there's another thing is, if you don't know what that word means, you can get the definition. So you can stop and be like, I don't know what this means. Let me find out the definition right there. But what it does is, as you're reading, it's learning what words you say wrong. It's also understanding if you're comprehending, because at the end of the lesson, they ask the child questions. So now they know, did the child understand the reading? Did they understand what they were supposed to get out of this story? So I tried it. Like I said, I think it was 2 summers ago. It was a while ago, right? And I still use it. They were using it this summer. It goes from K through 6, I think. K through 6th grade. My kids are going into the 5th grade, so still time. Still time to be on that AI. So I put all 3 of my sons on there. One of my sons was going into 1st grade. Kindergarten, actually. Whoa. So it was a long time. My son was going into kindergarten, so his reading was like non-existent, we thought, right? Then I have twins, and they were going into, I guess the 3rd grade. I forgot exact grades. But one of my sons has special needs. He's on the, we found out he has dyslexia, right? So if anybody has any tips for dyslexia, definitely send them my way. I want to know anything I can do to help my son. Then my other son was like about a grade, like a little bit under his grade. Once I learned that, I said, all right, even perfect, right? So now we're going to put him on this AI during the summer. They're doing this every day. Of course they hate it, but I'm threatening their lives, every day if they have to do it. or they can't play PlayStation, or they can't do whatever they want to do until they do the reading buddy. So they're doing it. I'm watching them do it. And the cool thing is it listens to the audio. It records the audio of them reading. So what you can do is over time, you can hear your child reading and you see how they're getting better. So they're doing it for months. For about 2-3 months, they go back to school, right? They test them for school that as soon as you come back into school, they test you to see where your reading level is at. My son that was in kindergarten, he was reading at a 2nd grade level. I don't know if it was only because of Reading Buddy, but I didn't think he could read before that. I don't know, right? But whatever. He was reading at a 2nd grade reading level. My other son passed his grade level, the one that doesn't have dyslexia. He passed his grade level, went above his grade level. I think he went like 1 level above. And my son, he was multiple grade levels lower. He almost caught up to his grade level in a few months, like 3 months. So when I looked at that experience, first of all, I reached out to that company and I was like, we need to work together. And I was working on a deal with them for a long time. It fell through, but again, I was right about that because I told that company, what you do is awesome, but we have to figure out how to bring it into schools because schools are not an environment where there's a person like me that's going to stay on top of each child to make sure they do this. But let's figure it out. So we tried it. It didn't work out. But now I see that's a huge opportunity for that company. And maybe I'll reach out again. We'll see. But 3 months, my kids moved up, and then every now and then I take like another 3 months and I make them do it. Like this summer, we did it again. We made them do it. So that AI, what did it do for me as a human? How did it amplify my ability? Amplify my ability as a parent, right? Like I want to help my child read, but I have 3 kids. I'm busy. And of course, nothing's more busy than having, nothing should be more priority than your children. But when you got bills to pay, sometimes it is. And I know me, I just work on like 1,000 things. So that basically helped me help my children, right? I put this AI in front of them. They devoured it. They did it. They hated doing it, but it made them better, right? So I think about that, and I always say, all right, what is a challenge in my current situation, business or life, that maybe there's an AI that can help me, right? So in this current situation of where I am now, I started doing this show during the pandemic, right? And when you do a show like this, it's an hour-long show, right? So most people are not watching an hour-long show. If you are watching my shows for the hour, I thank you so much. I truly appreciate you. And let me know if you're watching all the way to the end. I want to know. Put in the comments. I watched to the end. But anything you're watching, thank you. Just like the video if you can, if so more people can see it. So when you create these hour-long videos, and then I'm also putting them on podcasts, there's a lot of work that goes around this that most people have no clue. They just think you put up a show and that's it. It's done. And if it gets 1 million views like Joe Rogan, cool. But there's a lot of things. You have to, one, transcribe that show because it'll help you with the algorithms finding you. What are we talking about here? An algorithm, which is an AI. YouTube has an AI that helps you as a watcher, and so does Facebook, all of them, watch more things that you like. So what do? They will watch the content you watch and say, okay, here are a lot of the words that come up in the content that he's watching or she's watching. What are other videos that have similar words in them? Let me show them that, show him that or her that, right? So when they do that, basically what does it do? It makes it so you are watching content that you are more likely than not going to like because you just watched videos that you were interested in, right? So when I think about how much work goes into, after I create this video, this is what I got to do. I got to go through this AI. It's called Descript. What Descript does is it will transcribe the audio for you, right? So it takes all the audio. You know what? I'm going to pull up the Descript. I should have pulled up Reading Buddy, actually. But I'm going to pull up Descript so you can see what it does. But basically what it does is it takes the copy of the entire, everything I'm saying, and it makes it into paragraphs. Then what you can do is, one, you can export that, which is, that can cost money to have people transcribe things, so that costs money. Or you can do it yourself, which can take hours. Google does it for you automatically on YouTube, but it doesn't do it well yet. It's doing it better and better every day, but you can go in and take that file and change it as well. But what I do is in Descript, I do that. And then what Descript will do is I can chop out the sentences that I really like, and it'll edit a video based on those sentences. So when you think about what you have to do to promote content like I'm creating right now, is you got to create small videos that will show people and make people want to come back and watch, right? Because very unlikely that people, the first time they see you, they're going to watch an hour-long video from you, right? So you got to create what they call snackable content to draw people in. But that's like the Gary Vee thing where he's like, oh, you got to create 80 pieces of content a day. And you're like, how the hell are you going to do that, right? Like, it's a ton of work. But with Descript, using an AI, I'm able to do a lot more of that than possible. Oh, hold on. 1 second. So I'm going to bring up the script so you can see it. Um, so here's the Descript website, right? So what Descript does is you edit by the text file. So look, you see how it's in this video? Basically, I don't want to play it with sound because I'm not sure you can hear it. Let's see.
Like it or not, there's going to come a day. Oh my God, I should do a podcast. We can do a podcast. A what now? Podcast. Dad, I want you to be a guest on my beauty podcast. Great. But when that day comes, you'll probably also think, how do we make a podcast? Say hello to Descript. It's how you make a podcast. Descript is a brand new way to record, edit, and mix spoken audio. That's cool. In fact, it's a brand new way to even think about spoken audio. Not like that. How does it all work? Just connect your mic to your computer and hit this button.
So what's your favorite flavor? Mine's soup.
Do I speak into this?
Yep.
Can you edit that out? Yep. Editing audio has always been complicated. In fact, even today it's...
Welcome back to part 3 of our 48 parts.
But Descript is simple. It takes your audio and turns it into text. Which means when this happens... Today on the pod, he's gonna turn himself into a total glamazon. Think you're ready? Yes, Queen. Ew, Dad, just say yes. Yes. So editing your podcast is as easy as... Think you're ready? Yes, so ready. Whoa, I like it. Keep going. I'll be over here making real podcasts. Descript, a toy, not so fast. Non-destructive editing, multi-track editing, finely tuned edit, crossfades, volume automation, badness normalization, track groupings, timeline export to Pro Tools and Audition, the whole potato. Oh. It'll even edit video podcasts if that's your thing. Plus, it's got live collaboration.
This could use some work.
What if we tighten this up just a ditch?
So I won't make you watch the whole video, but basically what's happening there is like you saw, you get the text, and I'll pull it up. I would pull it up, but it's a resource hog. So if I pull it up, it might start making everything slow. But what it does is it edits the video with the audio. So if you've seen any of the videos I've been putting out for the last few weeks, I think all of them have come out of Descript, right? So what Descript will do is I can chop up basically like the sentences that I like the way I said it, because when I'm recording videos, when I'm not doing a show, I record the same sentence over and over again till I like how it sounds, right? But then I take the one that I like best and I use that one, right? So for this, I can say, all right, I like this read best, delete all the other ones, and it makes the edit for you. And you could even put the distance of how much time you want to wait to the next sentence. Sometimes you get some weird things happening, which I'm learning how to fix, but it's a AI that I believe will help me create, and it already is. It's helping me create more videos faster. It's helping me create, and then it even creates it exports the transcription so you could have it as words under the video, which you see me doing that a lot now. Before, to do that, it was a nightmare. So now with an AI, I do it like that, like literally one click export, done. So now that helps me with podcasting, it helps me with YouTube algorithm, it helps me with visually showing the content. I mean the type. It helps me with creating snackable videos to put in different places. So I've been experimenting right now with taking like the small clips and making clips for Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and stuff like that. They're all based on Descript. Because if I had to do that without Descript, which I know how to do, I've known how to do it forever, it's just so much time that you never get to do it. So now with a Descript, that's not a problem, right? So actually, I want to show you guys Reading Buddy too, because I was talking about it, but I never showed it. So if you're just tuning in, definitely what I'm doing here today is I'm going over AIs that I use to amplify my abilities, right? So what I talked about first was how I amplify being a parent and needing to help my kids with their reading. So I use this app called Reading Buddy. It's a software, transform your child's reading in 3 months. And I have a link. I have an affiliate link, actually. They'll give me some money if you sign up. I'll put it in the description. But see, this was a major problem. When I was thinking about for my kids, I was like, man, I'm gonna have to hire a tutor, right? This is the major problem with AI in general, though, right? Humans are going to be eliminated from certain things, right? So right here, tutor, I started asking tutors, even tutors in high school, like younger kids, it was gonna cost me like $25 an hour, right? I have 3 kids. If I did that every day, that's $75 a day, right? Versus this cost, what's the price? I think it's $87 a month. And I could do 3 kids at the same time. I could have 3 kids on here for $87 a month. Well, let me see what the price is now. I think it's, yeah, $80. $80 a month, 3 kids versus $75 a day, right? So that's a major difference. And think about if you are a tutor, if you're in the tutoring industry, right? What are you gonna do, right? If this actually does what it's heading to do, and it did for me. This is just for reading, though. If you're if you need math or something else, that's a whole different ballgame. But I'm even looking for AI for that, and I have found a few. I just haven't had as good of a story for that yet. But I did write an article. I'll link to it with different ones that I've used. I used the science one that uses artificial intelligence. Augmented reality. So basically, different things to help you with your kids, especially right now, because this is going to be a tough time as a parent, not knowing what are they really learning. You might need extra help to make sure that you're giving them what they need around whatever the DOE or whatever school system is trying to do, because they're figuring this stuff out. Like from what I saw today, it's going to be a rough year for us parents, right? So, all right. So let me think of another AI. Any questions? Of course, always. I'm always interested in hearing another AI, a very simple AI most people use and they don't even realize that it is AI, is things like Waze, right? That's an AI that helps you get to where you're going faster. What I want you to understand about AI, and that's why I'm creating this, is because I think people think AI and they think, oh, it's the stuff that's going to kill us, Terminator. No, AI is taking data that you most likely cannot keep in your head or even know. And it gives you a prediction based on that data. And it tells you what it thinks you should do. You choose to do you could choose to do it or not. So in the Waze example, I always tell my father this, because whenever I'm in the car with him, he's like, oh, why do you need Waze? And I'm like, do you know if there's an accident like 3 miles down? Waze does, because it has data you don't have, right? So it's predicting our route based on the data it has. You right now have your data of, I know this way's faster because I've taken it 25,000 times on my way home. So I just know that this way is faster. Okay, that's data you have, right? Waze doesn't have that data, but Waze has millions of people that take the ride home every day, right? And also it has, is there a fire in that road? Is there an accident? Is there just traffic? So add all that different data up, and that's where the AI makes a prediction and says, this is the route we think you should take. You could choose not to. You could look in Waze and say, I want to choose a different route. And if you do that, it's basically showing you a different route based on, they have levels of prediction, right? This is what we think is the best route based on the data we have, right? So that's going to bring me to another AI thing that I use, which is they call it the external brain. Right? Because one of the benefits of artificial intelligence over humans is it can hold a lot more data than us, right? So it can look at millions and millions of records and be like, oh, 35% of these people are Hispanic, whatever, stuff like that, right? Versus a human, for you to do that, it's going to take you a very, very long time, right? But an AI can do that instant. So one thing I've learned about this years ago was they say, create an external brain, right? What that means is you want to have things that you don't want to have to keep in your brain, right? So let's say you're working on 10 projects. It's really hard to keep all of the information from start to finish in your brain for 10 projects. So there's tools. I used to use one called Evernote where you would put in the information. Then whenever you needed it, you go and you find it so you don't have to keep it in your brain. Of course, there's pros and cons to that, right? Like the fact that we can't remember any phone numbers anymore, right? Because our cell phone is another version of AI, really. It's an external brain, right? We don't have to remember the phone number. We just got to know I'm calling Max, my son, right? And it knows Max's number and it calls him, right? But back before that was the case, I had to literally remember that person's phone number, right? I had to remember his number, her number, whoever it was, and dial it. So now stuff like that is starting to remove that need. So there's pro and con, right? Because then your brain starts to lose that skill to remember the phone numbers, right? But maybe, hopefully, you use that brain power on something else. So that's what the external brain kind of idea comes from. So what they say is, create an external brain where you keep a lot of the information that you bring into yourself every day, and then you can go back to it because you're not going to remember it. It's going to be very hard to remember if you're doing a lot of things. So the program I use right now for that is called Notion. I moved from Evernote and now I use Notion, and I'm going to show you guys this. So Notion it's kind of like Evernote 2.0. So Evernote was, and I'm not sure if anybody uses Evernote, let me know if they still use it. What Evernote does is, Evernote was like just notes, but you can share, you can sync them online. So they work on your phone, they work on your computer, they work on multiple devices. So if it's like, and I've used this even recently, I was somewhere without my phone or my computer. My phone was dead. I didn't have my computer, and I needed a password for something that I haven't used in like a year. And I was like, all right, how am I going to find it? It wasn't just a password. It was like more. I had to figure out a few different things. But luckily, I was able to log into Evernote on another computer, find it, and access it, right? Versus without that, I would have been screwed, right? So what I think about when I think about artificial intelligence is there's this level of data. There's this layer of having data accessible to you when you need it, right? And then it's going to go further where you can throw AIs on that data and it'll start learning stuff from what it sees, right? So I was talking to someone last week and they were talking about business intelligence, right? That is another artificial intelligence. We'll get to that one later, but let me show you Notion right now. So what Notion does is they have a desktop app and then they have a browser-based app. So just like Evernote, where I could have logged in and I could have found this information, you could do that here too. So I'm logged into my my Notion here. This is actually a class I'm taking on Notion. This woman puts together great videos and great understanding of Notion. So I took her class and it's been really good. So, but I'm going to show you Notion of how I use it, right? So Notion also helps me with all the crazy stuff I work on, right? If it wasn't for this app, I wouldn't be able to keep track of, and I really try to lean as much as possible on apps like this to be my external brain, right? So, for instance, what you're looking at right now is something I look at before every video. This is my external brain of my content matrix. So what does that mean? Every day I try to go to make a video, I say, all right, what am I going to talk about today? Because like today's video specifically, I didn't know what I was going to talk about 2 minutes before I pressed the video record. I was looking, I'm like, what am I going to talk about today? Have no idea. So I went into my content matrix, external brain, and I said, what were all the things I put in there and said I need to talk about, right? So by looking at this and then going through the different, in my content matrix, I'm talking about all the different things I think of that I need to create content of. These are some, and then there's this income streams, right? So basically what I'm trying to do is create content based on the different income streams that I'm trying to learn, right? So all this, you can go in, and this is around the real estate stuff I just did in Dominican Republic, right? So these are files that I've found, and these are people actually. These are lawyers that I'm going to reach out to make me the corporation the right way for that real estate property before we rent it, right? So this is all stuff where if I was going to remember all this, it'd be impossible, right? But I came in here, I looked, and I said, you know what? I'm going to I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence, because I looked here and I saw new ways to work, AI. And it made me think, I've been wanting to make a video about how I use artificial intelligence every day. So I said, all right, let me think about that. 2 minutes to record. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to start showing the AIs I use. That's it. Let's go. Right. And that was me using my external brain. Something like that I could have thought of, but by having this, it made it easier. And if you look how I'm using Notion, all of these are different things projects that I'm working on. So public speaking, I'm trying to be more of a public speaker. So I'm working on it. I'm taking a class. And this is where I put the homeworks and all that. My personal brand, which is stuff like this show. This is all the stuff I'm thinking about. I'm learning. So like primal branding is something I've been really, there's a book I'll link to that I'm really trying to understand how to do personal branding and branding in general better. And all that information I just dump in here. And then whenever I'm thinking about personal branding, I come in here and I look again and I refresh my memory, right? Because having all this information is going to go away if you just keep it in your own brain. So many people do this many different ways. I like Notion because Notion is kind of, I feel like a step up of Evernote. I'd used Evernote for almost 15 years, maybe something like that. I don't even know. From before when it started. I was one of the first beta testers of Evernote. Then when I saw Notion, I said, wow, they figured out a lot of the problems that Evernote has. So I'm going to start using Notion. And I like it a lot. It has a bunch of different types of ways of showing you information. So here, this is a list view, right? Well, that was a list view right here where you can see, right? You can see the view in a list. This has what's called a Kanban system, which is like Trello. So if you've ever used Trello, I use this system where it's like to do, doing, done. And then I move stuff along if I'm doing it or if it's done. So like right now, read Metabronx Docs, that had to do with us over the summer. And I did do it. So I'm moving it to done. I never moved it from here, but I needed to, right? So, but there's the Metabronx website. I'm still working on it, right? So it's doing. It's in the doing column. So I got to put all the stuff I'm working on, and then I drag it to doing as I start doing it. So that's another system. And then I showed you this is the gallery look, right? So it can show you different things in a gallery view. So as an external brain, I really like this system. And it's complicated. I'm not going to lie. It can be, you can overcomplicate it as well. And that's one of the downsides people say about Evernote is that they feel like it's a little too complicated. About Notion is they feel like it's a little too complicated, but I like it. I think it's good. And I use it every day pretty much. So when you're thinking about all the different areas of your life that you want to try to do better in, one AI system that I haven't started doing yet, and I was going to, but COVID hit, is health. There's all kind of AIs now around health, right? So what I mean by that is, first thing you have to do when you need AI, when you need to figure out what the AI system is going to do is, what data is it going to use, right? So right now they're coming out with these watches. Apple just launched a new watch that can literally tell your heart rate, your oxygen level in your, right? Because that's a thing that has come along because of COVID, right? So Apple puts a watch together that now can tell your oxygen level, right? So if you think about it, the watch knows how many steps you're taking, where you are, what type of exercise you're doing, your heart rate, your oxygen level. You could even, through apps, talk about what you're eating, if you're fasting, if you went for a run, how long did you run? It will connect to Nike Plus. So you take all that data in, and it could start to tell you, hey, you're doing well here, but maybe you could do better here. But just by doing it, you really won't know that stuff. Like you can't really know that you're on average running 3.4 miles just from your brain. You know, like you're not going to be able to do that. But the watch is keeping that data, and then it's saying, hey, why don't you try to do an extra 10% today? Because on average, you do run this much. So that's super interesting to me, and I wanted to get into better shape. So I was thinking, all right, I'm going to get an Apple Watch, and I'm going to start working out. And I started, so it was funny because I started going, well, it's not funny, because I started to reach out to people about boxing gyms because that was my favorite workout. So my friend tells me right before COVID, hey, there's a boxing gym, it just opened right by our old block. So I'll talk to the owner, let's see if we could go there. So he reaches out to me, he says, look, the owner wants a website. If you do the website, you could box there for free. I was like, sold, let's do it. I was supposed to meet my friend at that boxing gym. He got sick. This is when COVID was first starting. Nobody even really knew what was going on. He's like, yo, I'm sick. I'm not going to meet today. So I postponed the meeting. I said, all right, when you feel better, I'll go in. Turns out he had COVID. And he went on a ventilator like 3 days later, almost died. Thank God he survived. But that was when COVID like first started. So, of course, I haven't thought about working out for the whole, I mean, I try to do stuff in my house, but again, I was thinking about using it like because I'm on the move, I can keep track, and it'll tell you even things like, hey, you haven't stood up in 5 hours, stand up. Because that's a huge thing they're saying that relates to heart disease. Like you can get heart attacks if you do a job where you sit down too much. That's data that people are saying now. So the watch will tell you, hey, you've been sitting too long, stand up. So things like that, I was like, you know what? It'd be cool to have that. And now with the new Apple Watch, I'll see. It's a lot of money. I'll figure it out. But things like that, right? So for health, I really think AI is going to really shift the way we are understanding of our health. And there's another one that I just saw that I haven't used yet, but I might. It's called Viome, right? So I'm going to show you guys this. This came through, I don't know if you ever heard of Singularity University. It's a school that teaches you how to create exponential ideas. And exponential ideas just means ideas that can scale huge. And that most of the time ends up being AI. That is around data and AI, right? So this company right here, and I know the noise, I got to figure out where the hell I'm going to do this stuff. But what it does is they've taken, this is funny, because you take a test. The test is you take like a swab of your DNA, like for ancestry or well, not ancestry or whatever, the ones that tell you where you come from. But then it's funny, you got to give a stool sample too, right? And what they do is they take those and they run it against your, and they find out your actual DNA code. Like they run your DNA and they say, okay, your DNA, it will benefit you to eat foods like this and not eat foods like that. And then you're deficient in these vitamins. So you're going to want to take more of these vitamins and at this specific amount per day, right? Because that's all right now pretty much a guess, right? Even doctors can't tell you down to the genetic code of the individual what is better for you. This company supposedly does it, Health Intelligence Service, right? So what they're saying is they've run 250,000 tests like this. And they're learning from 250,000 humans with different DNA, of course, how to help people be more healthy. And what it does is it creates this, there's like your actual age and then there's your body's age. So what they're doing is they're lowering people's body age. And I watched this video, I posted it, I think on Facebook, and they were showing how they do it, and they were showing the age of the people that have taken the test, and then the age of how it's changing once they start taking the right vitamins that they need for their specific bodies, eating the things that benefit them and not eating the things that hurt them. And it was like, there were people that were like 63, and their body age was like 48 because of doing this stuff. And of course, you could believe or you could not believe. I tend to believe. We'll see. I do believe that this is the future of how health will be done, right? Like right now, you go to all the doctors you want. They're not going to tell you this unless you're filthy rich and you can do all this stuff yourself as an individual. We're going to need companies like this to create that type of service, right? And of course, it's pretty expensive. I think it's like $250, $400 you buy the test, and then you can pay, I think it's $200 a month, and they'll send you the exact amount of the vitamins you need and what vitamins. So basically, that in itself is probably worth it in the long run if you could afford it. But see, and then there's this app where it tells you your gut micro health, because they're basically saying, your gut is very important, and if you understand the microbes in your gut, you understand what type of food works well for you, right? So this is something I definitely want to try. It's just kind of expensive right now. COVID is not a good time to just be spending money, even though health is important, right? But this is something if you could afford it, I would highly suggest you do. And tell me if anybody does it. I want to know. I've definitely I told it to my dad. See, so all right, gut intelligence service. I think it's one time you pay this, but then there's a monthly. Is this the monthly? Yeah. All right. So I think this, you pay $179 a month, and every month you could do one of those tests, and it'll tell you how your body's starting to change based on the stuff you're doing, right? You're getting younger, your body's getting younger, certain foods are benefiting you, whatever the case. But this is super duper interesting. And again, I'll put all the links, but this was like, whoa. When you start to see stuff like this, you say, man, AI is going to help humanity in a way, right? Because this stuff, you couldn't do this without AI. There's no way, no doctor is going to remember 250,000 patients, what works for them, what works for them. And definitely they will never know your DNA. They don't know your DNA and take that data and then put your DNA against other DNA and say, most people that have similar DNA to you with this problem, when they do this, it's solved. That's crazy. If you think about that in itself, nothing could do that like AI is going to be able to, right? A human is not going to be able to do that. So that's where it becomes like this huge opportunity. And that's where, I myself, I'm going to start testing health AIs because, of course, what good is anything if you're not living, right? So I want to do health AIs, then there's money AIs. So that's the last one. So the money AIs I've been testing are, there's one called Wealthfront. And I'll show that to you. So what Wealthfront does, and I learned about this because a lot of the Silicon Valley workers, they bank with Wealthfront. Because what Wealthfront does is, so all right, I'm going to give you a little bit of background really quickly. If you haven't watched the investor videos I talk about, I'll put them here. Basically, what I've been learning is if you keep cash in the bank, you pretty much lose 2% to 3% of the value of that cash every year. Why is that? By keeping money in the bank will give you maybe 1% interest, but inflation is about 3 to 4%. So you're losing 2 to 3% if you just leave the money in the bank. So what they do here is whenever you basically get your check into this Wealthfront bank account. It's a bank account. So you put your check in there, and what it does for you is it automatically pays your bills, and then with what's left over, it automatically invests it for you in the best things for what you are interested in doing. So let's say I'm saying I want to invest in my retirement fund, and I want to retire in 10 years. So it says, all right, we're going to run AIs to choose the best stocks that will help you do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to invest a certain percentage of your money, and you could set it. You could be like, well, I only want to invest 50% of my available funds in this. So what they do is automatically the money comes in, pays your bills, and then automatically invest in things that will benefit you the most through AI. Of course, you can think it's right or wrong, but it's the same thing as a human, right? If you have a human stockbroker or somebody managing your 401k, which another book I've read that I'll put in the description, you shouldn't do that, is it's a Tony Robbins book called here it is. Money, Master the Game. He talks about how when you allow a human or a company to manage your retirement fund, you may end up with half of what you could have ended up with. So what companies like this are aimed to do is, again, who knows? You hope it turns out to be right. But this company is dealing with a lot of Silicon Valley's people's money. So I'm guessing that's where most of the money is in America. So I'm guessing it is going to be well done. So they basically take your money and then across the board, they're running AIs across all, and it's not just stock. They do stocks, bonds, what they call emerging markets. So that could be like they'll invest in stuff in China, Japan, different places that they feel like the money's going to grow faster for you automatically, and they're not charging you a brokerage fee, or they charge you something. They're making money somehow. I don't even fully know how, but it's still going to be cheaper than a human. That's just the messed up part of this, is that what I keep coming back to when I do all this is humans cost more money and are less efficient than the AIs, right? So where are we heading? If you're not using these and using them early, the people that are going to make their lead in this world much better. And that's where you see some of this stuff is expensive, right? So like I showed you with, the thing about Wealthfront is it's free. They basically make money through trading your money, I guess, something like that. So and then you earn up to 8 times the interest than a bank. That's another big thing, which I don't know how they're doing that, but because they don't got locations. So one of the biggest parts of banks is they rent all this space all over. They're saving all that money, and then they're also saving the money on the people. They have a bunch of people making the AIs, but there's not like a human being that you're dealing with. So some people like that, some people don't. I think where we're heading is to dealing with a lot less human beings. And I don't know how that changes entrepreneurship and stuff like that, but if you're not looking at this stuff, learning about it, and potentially investing in it, because when Wealthfront becomes public, you might want to put money in it, because if it becomes the dominant way of investing and storing your money, that could be, that's why I invested in Cash App and in PayPal, because PayPal owns Venmo. And PayPal is not the greatest, but PayPal exists and is one of the most ways people use to pay each other. And Cash App is growing 30% a month. Huge numbers. And it could end up being its own little ecosystem of money that you store and hold. So I look for stuff like that, and then I look for AIs that do that, and I'm going to invest in those because that's where you want to have your money, and things that make money, right? So, and the big problem I keep seeing is the less amount of people involved, the more value these companies are. So it's a crazy time, but what I'm trying to create this content about is use it right now. There's an opportunity to grow in whatever area you want, but you have to try these things. Like I show this stuff to my parents, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to deal with that." But dude, this stuff is crazy. Like if one of these things is, and from what I've seen, most of Silicon Valley is putting their money in this. So to me, that's like, hey, that's the due diligence I needed. If those people with a lot more money than me are using this, sure, why not? So like I said, a lot of this multiple revenue stream thing is I'm trying to learn how to grow money through like Roth IRAs and stocks, bonds, all this stuff, cryptocurrency. So I'm looking at this stuff. I'm not putting in millions of dollars, even tens of thousands I'm not putting in. I'm putting $100 here, $100 there to learn, because I just want to learn. And once I understand what's the best way to go, then I'll have a plan. Because I had a Roth IRA for a long time. That was because my accountant just told me to do it. And I said, okay. I had no real idea why. I just was like, okay. He was like, well, you can save on taxes if you do this. And I said, all right, let's do it. Keep doing it. So that's what I did. And I have it still. I don't think about it like ever, but it exists. But that was from, I didn't even understand really why. But now, after I've been researching, what I understand is if I would have kept that money in a bank, I would have been losing value on it. But now I have it on a Roth IRA, so it's growing. It's been growing. I think I started it when I first started mass ideation, I believe. So it's about 10, 11 years old. So that money has grown in value, compound interest, right? So, but again, it's being managed by somebody else. I don't know. I got to go look and maybe take it and do it myself. So that's something I'm going to start looking at. And when I create content, when I start learning it, I'm going to create content all around it. So first thing today, thank you for watching. If you watched this long, thank you so much. If you like the video, more people see it. And I truly appreciate anybody who watches at any amount of time. But if you got this far, I truly appreciate you. And I hope I taught you something about AI and something that you can take and use for yourself, because I do believe that this is the way of the future. And if you jump on it earlier than most, you'll benefit earlier and more than most. So I'm gonna say bye for today, and thank you for watching. And use AI if you can. If you have any questions of this, about anything I said, let me know. And of course, how do we end the show every time? Innovate every day. Thank you very much.